Hello there and welcome to the Star Wars Showcase YouTube channel. Today we're talking some tips and tricks for building out your very own suited Stormtroopers, who are the perfect little companion piece for your desk at work. Let's get to it. So you'll notice we've got two different variants here, one trooper with a black helmet and one trooper with a white helmet, and the real fun part about these guys is you can put any blaster or gun in their hands and it's just fun and goofy. But before we get into a tutorial here, we got to give credit where credit is due, as I first saw this idea originate on Instagram from Jamaican Reaper. Got some information pulled up on the screen for him here, as well as his original post, which is kind of what inspired me to take on this project using some spare parts I had lying around. Now, if you haven't recognized it already, the bodies for these particular customs come from the Mr. Negative Spider-Man 2-pack that's available on GameStop. And I got a great deal on these. They had a recent GameStop Pro sale, so it was buy two, get one free. So I was able to get a bunch of pieces and parts to build all of these projects out for a pretty reasonable price. However, Marvel Legends has all kinds of different, suited characters, and so you can really find whatever color you'd like, whether it's navy or brown or black or whatever, and just find the one that really suits your preference. I liked the black and the white because it kind of paired well with these different helmets here, but as far as matching, the white really looks good on anything. So because I went with the Mr. Negative white body here, there's a little bit of paint rework I had to do, as his skin is actually kind of this dark navy color. So you can see here that I've removed the hands, and I am just going over with a couple of thin layers of black paint over both the hands as well as just the exposed portion of his neck. And so the key here, like I try to reiterate in all of these custom tutorials, we are doing multiple thin layers of paint. That's going to make things look very even. We're not going to have any, kind of blotchy areas, and it's just going to make the project look a lot smoother if we take it a little bit slower with that. And because the hands are easily removable, I actually recommend just popping these out of his arm, and I took them outside and just hit them with a thin layer of a black primer, and then put a single, thin layer of black paint on top of that with my brush, as you see here. And that's just meaning that, especially for the hands, which are going to see a lot more action in terms of wear and tear and you touching and moving them around, that there's just more layers of stable paint there and less chance of things chipping off. To help support this, at the very end, once you've completed all of your paint work, I do recommend hitting these with a clear coat, kind of Krylon, either gloss or matte spray. These kind of sealants really work to go over your paint and just help, again, prevent that chipping or that smudging of the paint once it's been put on. Now for the Stormtroopers that have these black suits, I'm actually going to be painting some black helmets to match things a little bit better. And so I've turned to some 3D prints here, as opposed to just using these Stormtrooper helmets from the normal Black Series release. So as with the hands, I've taken these 3D printed helmets, I took them outside, hit them with that very thin first layer of kind of black primer, and as you can see on the screen here, I'm just touching this up with a little bit of black paint to fix up and cover up those areas that might have not gotten the best coverage or were, left exposed because of a particular angle and still need a little bit more paint coverage. And painting up a black Stormtrooper helmet is a pretty easy affair, as 90% of the helmet is going to be black. There's just going to be a couple of details, the eyes and a couple of the different portions that are poking out, some of the little greebles, that you'll just put a little bit of either some silver or some gray on. So these are pretty straightforward paint jobs for some of those silver and gray details that if you're adding them to a black Stormtrooper helmet, just make sure you're using a little bit more of a fine tip brush to cover up those detailed little areas. But for the most part, this should be a pretty easy custom job for you. And what that means is once you've got either your helmet painted up or you've repainted, the hands and the neck area, all that really remains to do is to glue our head into place so that helmet stays on. Okay, so we need two items to fix our heads using this technique. The first thing that we want to do is we want to take the ball joint of the action figure's head. We're going to cover that in a thin layer of Vaseline. This is really just making a nice layer of grease around that, because what happens is that Vaseline is not actually going to stick to the hot glue. So once you get that ball joint greased up, we can set the actual body and the neck part aside, and then we are going to take our head that we've either painted up or that we've pulled in from another figure, and we're going to fill that up with hot glue. So make sure that you're being careful when using this. It's very easy to burn yourself using these tools, so just take things nice and slow. We're going to plug in that hot glue gun, give it a couple of minutes to warm up, and then just very nice and easy. We'll fill up that head sculpt till it's about 75-80% way full of hot glue. Before the glue dries, we are then going to take the body and place it within that glue and gently move things back and forth. And what's going to happen is the hot glue is going to dry around the greased up ball joint, meaning that it's going to then hold it in place, that there's a nice seal affixed around it, but we're still able to get articulation. You can move the head in either direction, as opposed to something that is just glued in place and can only face in one direction. So this is going to take a little bit of time for that hot glue to dry, so make sure that you're just holding things in place and moving them gently from side to side. I do recommend that with the head sculpt that you're holding onto, it can heat up with all of the hot glue inside there. So it might be nice to have, a paper towel or a rag, a piece of cloth, something to put between your fingers and the head sculpt if you're having things get a little too warm for you. But once things begin to harden, once they're really starting to solidify in the place that you like it, and in a place where the head is, sitting comfortably, so it's not like it's like a no-neck Stormtrooper or like a giraffe neck. So try to find that middle ground where things look natural. But once things have begun to harden into place and it's sticking there without you having to hold it, I do recommend setting the figure aside, let it sit for an hour or two, just let that glue dry and harden all the way. And then once it has, you can take a paper towel or a rag, wipe any excess glue or Vaseline that may have dripped down, and then boom, you've got your completed figure. And as far as arming these guys, you can, again, give them whatever blaster you like the most. I just picked some of these bigger military guns because I thought the contrast was funny, and it kind of fits that, John Wick vibe if he's got, a big old machine gun or a Tech 9 or something like that. So really up to your discretion, whatever you like best or whatever you think is funniest. And once you've got that all together, you have a suited Stormtrooper who I'm looking over at my desk right now, I think looks fantastic. And is, just kind of a funny, goofy thing to have on your desk or to give as a gift, something along those lines, for a really quick, easy, and not too expensive custom project. So let me know your thoughts on these guys. If you've got any suggestions for, additional helmets, different, bodies, different techniques, would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. If you're interested, I also do have an eBay storefront where many of the projects that you see featured on this channel are posted and available for sale, so I've got a link down in the description below if you'd be interested in purchasing something. Also, if you enjoyed this video, we've got all kinds of other custom tutorials up on the channel, so make sure to check those out, and please like and subscribe, as that definitely helps grow the channel.